Lieutenant Mara Singh waited in darkness, broken only by the blue diodes of her Spindrift-class Aqua mech. Around her, the launch rack thrummed like a restrained animal. Somewhere above, technicians flooded the vertical shaft with oxygen-stripped seawater in preparation for release. Talos 7's twin moons were minutes from setting, and the orbiting weapon platforms that ringed the planet, silhouetted specks of gunmetal starlight, would soon fire again on Alliance ships massed at the Lagrange point. Those kilometer-wide cannons drew every watt from geothermal reactors burrowed far below Mara's current depth, in the liquid mantle where hydrogen, salt, and silicates blurred the line between ocean and magma. Her squad's job was simple in phrasing and impossible in practice. Dive 1,200 kilometers, cripple the reactors, and give humanity's fleets a sky finally free of crosshairs. Spindrift green, she reported, voice steady despite the gravity inside her ribcage. Across the squad channel, icons flashed acknowledgement. Gunnery Sergeant Lucio Ramirez in the bulldog-shaped Mako, Corporal O'Neill inside the sleek Hydra, and Specialist Kirsch piloting the sensor-laden lanternfish. Overwatch AI K-Raul, a clipped synth voice grown from cetacean neurology, echoed them with surgical calm. Each mech carried grav-lensed limbs, micro-nuke cutters, and coaxial harpoons. Yet everyone knew the real enemy wasn't the Panounce Consortium guards. It was the planet itself. At the pressures awaiting them beyond the crustal rind, one fractured seal meant instant pulverization into constituent molecules. Mara thumbed the Catholic medallion taped to her console, felt its worn ridges, then punched the launch stud. With a hollow clang, the shackles snapped open, and gravity became downward infinity. Water smoked past armored glass. The first 1,000 meters were aquamarine twilight teeming with shoals of glassfish that scattered like dreams. Comms filled with squad banter designed to hide fear. Ramirez boasted about post-op tequila rations. O'Neill fired off sardonic pings of whale song macros that made K-Reel complain about bandwidth. Mara allowed herself a ghost of a smile. They'd trained 13 months on Europa's sub-ice oceans, memorized every emergency drill, practiced upside-down marksmanship until wrist tendons begged for mercy. But nothing on Europa simulated Talos 7's scale, a continuous global sea 3,000 kilometers deep, capped only by a veneer of frozen nitrogen that served as deceptive surface. Humanity had never ventured into a world this wet, this heavy, this quiet. Light died at 10 kilometers. Bioluminescent veils took its place, curling ribbons of emerald microbes feeding on trace metals. The Mechs' gravitic buffers hummed higher as external pressure hit 40,000 atmospheres, their flexed ceramic hulls reforming lattice angles on the fly. Static shimmered through the squad net, and each pilot felt the acoustic silence settle into their helmets, a silence so thick it felt like mass. Mara's external mics picked up distant thermal cracking, flutes of rock snapping where cold and heat argued. Somewhere beyond sonar range prowled abyssal leviathans whose scanned skeletons looked like braided coils of bone. Talos 7 made its own monsters. At 60 kilometers, they reached the Diamond Verge, a region where water crystallized into Ice 7, despite temperatures hot enough to boil lead. An ancient fault, sundering rift on the Alliance charts, sheared straight through that wall, a tube 50 meters wide plunging toward the liquid mantle beneath. The consortium had seeded the rift with autonomous sonar pins and torpedo lilies. Kirsch took point, lanternfish vanishing into the ice shadow, its nanofiber fins whisking data upstream. Static resolved into maps, lanes free of mines, alcoves glowing crimson with active sentries. "I can ghost their grid," Kirsch said, voice thin with concentration. "But don't break 15 meters left or right. Their phase array will smell us." They ghosted. Turbid brine exhaled from fissures, painting the Mechs in clouds of mineral snow. Every 100 meters, Ramirez paused to melt a sonar pin with a whisper laser. Each pin died with a tremor of red light, no alarm transmitted. Once a torpedo lily's petal antenna twitched toward O'Neill, and she killed thrusters, holding motionless while Kirsch emitted a packet of mimic noise. The lily folded again like a flower returning to sleep. Even locked in her cockpit, Mara felt sweat chill down her spine. She pictured orbit, the glowing barrels aimed at carriers full of sleeping conscripts, and forced herself forward. Depth 200 kilometers. Water thickened into syrup, infused with supercritical ammonia and silicates. Temperature climbed. Outside, the sea was now hot enough to flash fry steel, but pressure held it liquid. The squad enacted coolant cycles. Flakes of ablative nickel peeled from armor and drifted past viewports like burning snow. Here, alien fauna flourished, eel-long things with concentric jaws, translucent metazoids pulsing with iron-red light. The Mechs' footfall awakened ripples of seismic fluorescence in the silt below, patterns that slid away into darkness faster than they came. K-Rill broke the reverie. Consortium patrol incoming. 2 Aklut-class subframes, Vector 317. Mara cursed. Aklutes were no drones. They carried pilots, exomarines juiced on hyperoxia, believing the Panounce shareholders' creed like scripture. Engagement here risked alerting Tier 2 headquarters and bringing orbital railguns into play. Passive, Mara ordered. The squad killed power plants, switching to chemical cold thrusters. They drifted among farming towers, forest-like scaffolds harvesting mantle heat through capillary pipes. The Akluts passed overhead, outlines distorted by roiling currents, their searchlights combing for anomalies. One beam nicked Ramirez's mech, sparking an avalanche of silt. Mara's heart stopped. The patrol paused, sonar clicking, undecided. Kirsch pulsed a replica of hydrothermal vent chatter. Convinced, the Akluts moved on. Lungs collectively exhaled. 300 kilometers down, the rift opened onto the fugue plain, an expanse the size of Eurasia. Here the liquid mantle churned openly, a hell of black water infused by molten glass. Consortium infrastructure crawled across it like luminous vines. Drilling derricks, heat exchangers, armored substations, and the ascending beanstalks of energy elevators, ferrying superconductive loops straight to orbit. The primary geothermal reactors, a trio of truncated pyramids called Hars 1, 2, and 3, squatted atop magma chimneys, each shielded by slab walls meters thick. Their output dwarfed every fusion plant in human space combined. Mara's HUD regurgitated objectives: plant charges on all 3 hearths, overload heat exchangers, escape through secondary fissure Epsilon, rendezvous with stealth shuttle rising from the deep ice shelf. Time window, 70 minutes. The Marines dispersed, mech silhouettes against cyclopean machinery. Kirsch streamed a virus into the local comm backbone, replacing maintenance telemetry with looped nominal metrics. Meanwhile, Ramirez and O'Neill used thermal cutters to slice an access hatch along Hearth 1's equatorial seam. Superheated water roared outward. Compensator fields kept it from flash cooking them. Mara entered first, descending a shaft aglow with saffron algae purposely cultivated to neutralize corrosives. Inside lay a cathedral of pressure vessels, all humming at a pitch human bones could feel more than hear. Her father's workshop on old Earth had smelled of machine oil and hope. This place smelled of annihilation waiting its cue. She set to work on the primary coolant manifold, switching from harpoon to mag welder. Shaped charges, rubies of plastic explosive, nested against vulnerable welds. Sync cords ran from each brick to her suit's detonator pack. Luminous threads in the gloom. Over SquadNet, Ramirez reported similar progress at Hearth 2, voice taut. O'Neill whistled a bar of something Irish while hollowing cavities for antimatter pods inside Hearth 3's central stacks. Kirsch, still outside, murmured status of distant heat signatures and drone flight paths, a conductor shepherding invisible instruments. 15 minutes later, calamity struck. A maintenance lift descended without warning, delivering 6 consortium heavies in crimson vac suits armed with shock lances. They saw Mara mid-crouch, explosives in hand. Alarms erupted, real ones this time, not Kirsch's illusions. Pressure doors irised shut. Mara dove behind a turbine the size of a shuttle, the first lance discharge slagging wall plating where her torso had been. "Contact inside Hearth 1, she barked. Metal rang, steam screamed through a severed pipe. She fired her mech's grapnel, caught the ceiling truss, and vaulted across open space while slinging flechette bursts. 2 vac suits shredded, crimson dying into blackness. The rest scattered, triggering emergency foam that foamed toxic gel across half the turbine floor. Outside, spotlights erupted, Aklutz vectored back. Kirsch's measured voice cracked. They know! O'Neill cursed so eloquently the comm filters flagged profanity telemetry. Ramirez detonated a preliminary charge to seal Hearth 2's service crawlway, sacrificing stealth for survival. The whole plane awakened. Vents flared, drones rose like hornets from metal nests, and the orbital spine cables began sucking power at redline rates in preparation for firing again. Humanity's fleet would be vapor if the Marines failed now. Mara cut remaining vac suits with a wide-arc plasma bloom, but not before one stabbed into her shoulder actuator. Painkillers flooded. Mech servos stuttered. She slapped the final block of explosive into place and evac'd through the same hatch she'd entered, careening into the Mantle Sea amid a blossom of superheated froth. Kirsch's lanternfish was there, hull pitted, and a Clute corpse pinned to its harpoon. Hearth 1 primed, Mara said between ragged breaths. Status? Ramirez sounded winded. 2 is singing, but we've got 3 drone packs inbound. O'Neill answered last, voice tight. Charge planted, but detonator severed. I'll have to stay in manual light. Static swallowed the channel for a heartbeat. Manual meant suicide. No mech could outrun a direct mantle heat surge once the Hearth went exothermic. Mara opened her mouth to refuse, but O'Neill had already locked his transmission, making further argument impossible. The squad's timers synchronized. 5 minutes to chain detonation. 5 minutes to reach Fisher Epsilon, a full 7 kilometers away through rising currents, hot as volcano breath. They burned. Mantle water boiled around deflector fields. Temp gauges wailed. Mara's damaged shoulder made steering like wrestling a drunk god, but adrenaline razored focus. Behind them, Hearth 2's outer shell snapped open as if kicked by titans, releasing a geyser of incandescent brine that impaled the darkness. Machinery warped, shedding plates that tumbled end over end. Consortium drones pursued through the eruption, ceramite skins glowing dull orange. Ramirez took rearguard, Mako's rail launcher spitting slugs that flowered into particle chaff clouds, shredding sensors. A drone speared him through the calf joint. He twisted, embraced the machine, and thumbed a micro-nuke. A silent flash. Camera feeds whited, left nothing but a bubble of steam collapsing upon itself. 2 Alliance life signs gone in as many seconds. O'Neill back at Hearth 3, and Ramirez in the Mantle's jaw. Mara felt each loss like her own marrow was being mined. Kairiel kept calculating. Optimal escape vector revised. A hollow arrow bled across the HUD, pointing uprift through a forest of coolant pipes now buckling under shock waves. Mara and Kirsch followed, Mechs limping. Shockwave number 2 hit, Hearth 1 disintegrating, and current thrust them forward faster than thrusters could. Plumes of molten silicate blurred sensor optics. Auto shields dimmed to spare retinas. For an instant, Mara saw the planet's interior laid bare, a swirling aurora of mineral fire stretching beneath like the belly of creation. Then data returned, and with it the hiss of fracturing ice. They burst into Fisher Epsilon, which had widened from a jagged slit to a cavern 20 meters across, scoured clean by supercritical floods. Their mechs scraped walls, shedding limbs of warped metal. Mara checked timers. 8 seconds. She pictured O'Neill patching wires with gloved hands, hearing alarms he could not silence. Across the ether, his deliberate voice arrived. Detonating. Clear skies, Mara. Hearth 3 erupted. The Mantle roared. Pressure fronts slammed into Fisher Epsilon, hurling the 2 remaining mechs upward like seeds in a geyser. Ascent was a concussion dream. Meters blurred into kilometers, alarms into white noise. Hull temps swung from molten to cryogenic as they punched through elder ice into colder ocean strata. Kairiel jettisoned damaged gyropods to lighten load. Their energy cells were near void when surface light finally bloomed, a faint silver halo beneath nitrogen clouds. They broke through a crust that had never known natural day, smashing a crater into ice plains the size of continents. Steam billowed skyward, freezing into diamond dust that glittered under the distant sun. The orbiting weapon platforms reacted instantly, hungry for new power, but received none. Their conduits were dead conduits, now trailing sparks toward an ocean suddenly cut from its furnace. Mara, half conscious, watched those distant lights dim, saw one platform's thermal bloom as emergency reactors imploded for lack of coolant. Alliance fleet comms poured celebratory chaos. Weapon grid collapsing, all ships advance. A raw cheer cracked across every channel, sobbed as much as shouted. Kirsch's lanternfish rested beside Mara's spindrift on the newborn ice floe, hulls hissing where residual heat kissed vacuum chill. His cockpit canopy opened first. The man inside looked impossibly small without pressure armor layered around him. Mara tried to stand, but her right leg was still inside the mech. Technicians would later chisel steel from flesh. Above, auroras blossomed, magnetic tantrums spawned by the mantle's upheaval, painting the sky with ribbons of electric jade. A rescue skimmer descended, engines chopping frigid air. Medics poured out, their white suits absurdly bright against charcoal night. One crouched before Mara, shining a pen lamp into pupils wide as moons. "Lieutenant, can you hear me?" She nodded, though tear ducts stung in the cold. The medic began reciting casualty tallies. She stopped him with a raised hand. She already knew. In the quiet between heartbeats, she could still feel O'Neill bracing a detonator, still hear Ramirez laughing about tequila while grappling a drone into oblivion. Every victory found purchase where blood drained. As they lifted off, Mara looked down through the skimmer's translucent deck at the wound they had carved. A smoking breach in the planet's skin, water still fountaining but already beginning to freeze. Tomorrow it would be an ice mountain, someday a footnote in textbooks. She imagined future explorers stumbling across the crater, running instruments, wondering what burst from deep time to rewrite orbital power maps in a single hour. They would never feel what she felt, the crushing dark, the hot hammer of mantle tides, the ragged breath of comrades humming rebel songs through comm static. They would only measure the absence of heat and call it data. The skimmer tilted, banking toward a horizon where human starships glided free of aim. Above them, weapon platforms drifted powerless, harmless, soon to be claimed as war prizes or scuttled into orbital junk. Talos 7's twin moons, serene and ignorant, rose again, catching sunlight on icebound surfaces. Mara let exhaustion finally claim her. Somewhere an AI hummed lullabies coded in whale frequencies. Somewhere a fleet plotted courses into brighter dawns. And somewhere far below, in the molten hush of an alien sea, 3 ruined hearths whispered stories of human bones that would not break, human hearts that would not surrender, and machines that carried them into hell and back, leaving defiance burning like a star only courage could see.